of lines, and an extravagant display of colors. For generations, women skilled in embroidery have been called Shu Niang. Zhou Yingze and her mother are native Shu Niang of Suzhou. They began learning embroidery at a very early age, according to tradition.
我6岁开始学习刺绣，我妈妈说，女孩子一定要学会刺绣的，要是学不会、做不好刺绣，你将来就会嫁不出去的。
The China Embroidery Art Festival is the biggest annual event in the field nationwide. Winning a place to present one's work at the event marks one's acclaimed mastery of embroidering skills. This is an opportunity that Yingze wouldn't want to miss. An opportunity to exchange ideas with embroidery veterans in China. She wants to create something of premium quality in Suzhou. To secure a place at the event, the best way for Yingze would be by collaborating with her mother. Proven experience plus a new understanding Yingze has developed over the years will produce works of art spanning 2 generations and will definitely be a hit at the event. Suzhou, in the hinterland of southern China, was once a Chinese art and cultural hub and home to legendary figures of high intellect and beauty. These word craftsmen provided fodder for silk art, represented in turn with needle and thread. Silk art of fine quality was thus produced, passing the legacy 2 generations onward. Zhou Yingze can't wait to tell her mother about her ideas of working together on the project.
我最来在，帮你商量个事体，搿子我弄好在，我帮你看看哈。看得懂少？起码是看得懂。
They argue over what to choose as the motif. Yingze and her mother stand their ground firmly, unwilling to compromise. The prospect of collaboration has broken down and led to a mother-daughter squabble. As a practitioner in the field for over 50 years, Yingze has also created quite a number of award-winning works, and works that were presented to foreign dignitaries as national gifts. She always holds that Su embroidery is an art alive to this day because of how its traditions have been revered and sustained. But her daughter thinks differently and advocates unconventional new ways to continue the art form. Over the years, she has explored various approaches to innovate in search of a new path towards a greater mixture of artistic expressions. She often tries to catch sparks of inspiration from images of Buddha and murals. It's her goal to develop a motif that is completely new to Su embroidery. This goal characterizes the younger generation of Shu Niang. The traditional Su embroidery techniques have been practiced for over 2,000 years. Dyeing is one of the fundamental processes. Mrs. Zhou prefers the oldest method of dyeing, using plant extracts. She controls the temperature and dyes the cloth based on her own experience to produce the wide range of colors she needs. Unlike her mother, Yingze feels pressure to keep up with the times. She tries to dye the cloth using modern technology. She believes that dyes mixed by careful measurement, along with precise temperature and time control, can be used to create a wider range of colors closer to those in nature. A better dyeing method means an easier way to apply colors to Su embroidery. Yingze has often found herself going against her mother's wishes, even when she was young.
小时候我其实挺恨妈妈的，因为她比较严厉，老是爱管着我。
Yingze didn't enjoy learning embroidery at home all day. Not a minute passed when she didn't want to run away. Centuries-old tradition in Suzhou requires small girls to learn embroidery. It is a skill women must master in southern China. In ancient times, it was called gong. Gong was important, together with other skills like knitting and sewing. Before marriage, the groom's family would judge the fiancé's life skills and virtues through her gong works and take her as a wife only when she met the required standards. These were the times when Mrs. Zhou grew up, and the customs are rooted in her mind.
当我坐在绣架上绣东西的时候，妈妈都会很迁就我，几乎是百依百顺。她甚至会把盛好的饭都端到我的手里。
Mrs. Zhou argues that tradition cannot be thrown away. This framing process, for example, Su embroidery applies fine stitching techniques, with one stitch immediately following the next. If the surface has wrinkles, the stitches will be misaligned. That's why meticulous care is needed when fastening cloth to the frame. This is a process that transcends time to ensure exquisite handiwork on a smooth surface. First, Mrs. Zhou tucks the hems of the cloth into the beams of the rack and rolls the beams to flatten the cloth. Then she latches up the beams to fix the rack in place. Finally, she trusses the other two edges of the cloth to the rack. Framing is essential for all generations of Shuniang. Su embroidery starts with sketching. Mrs. Zhou never learned this skill formally, nor does she have any formal training in fine arts. But her use of a pen seems natural and graceful while outlining a given pattern, thanks to her 50 years of practice as a Shuniang. Fundamental to embroidery, sketching leads to fine handiwork if done carefully. Yingze is still hopeful of working with her mother on the project. She decides to cook a couple of dishes for Mrs. Zhou as a peace offering to open up another discussion. Her mother's experience, after all, can add so much more to her own ideas. If they play to their strengths in unity, they will surely create an impressive work of art. However, when she finds her mother in the process of making something else, her hopes are completely shattered. All Yingze can do now is to create on her own. Thread splitting is an essential process of Su embroidery. As Su embroideries are very much detail-oriented, threads of the usual thickness won't do, particularly for goldfish tails or animal fur, unless threads are split to a desired thickness. Silk threads are released from silk reels and then divided to make finer threads for later use.
这是一个绣娘必须要会的一个基本的一个技能。妈妈现在60多了，闭着眼睛都能把线给劈开。
The finest thread is only about 5 to 8 micrometers in diameter, 1/10 as thin as a human hair, so light that it can easily float on the air. The rich cultural resources in southern China give rise to endless inspiration for Su embroidery and greatly impact on the artistic perception of Su embroiderers. Mrs. Zhou is creating needlework on the almost traditional theme kitten and mantis. The flat overlap stitch is the most fundamental method in traditional Su needlework. It reverses the stitching order and progresses from the rear. Mrs. Zhou starts from the kitten's paw and applies flat stitches in the direction of the hair. For this kind of stitch, threads of the same color are used to make parallel and even lines. While stitching the kitten's torso, Mrs. Zhou shows the fluffy texture through the same parallel lines, with each stitch butted in a neat pattern, and 2 colors alternating across every 2 lines to puff up kitten's back. In Su embroidery, this technique is called thickening the stitch. Various kinds of stitches must be blended to make the kitten look real and vivid. Yingze doesn't hurry to start her project for the Embroidery Art Festival. Needlework is more about technique, but she values innovation and uniqueness more than anything. She doesn't want to confine herself to traditional patterns. Instead, she aspires to find something new with her own eyes. She believes that modern Xunian should weave individuality into their designs and open up their minds more to creativity. Thus, the artistic value of Su embroidery in modern times can be raised. Yingze's innovative spirit goes back a long way. She has been longing to derail her mother's teachings since she was 18.
妈妈那时候老是让我绣一些花卉啊什么东西的，我就觉得特别的烦，然后我就跟妈妈就是谈条件，我就说你要么帮我找老师，否则我就不干了。
Yingze made her plea so repeatedly that her mother finally let her go. From then on, she's been able to broaden her vision, becoming familiar with a wide range of artistic concepts. Away from her mother, Yingze gradually fine-tuned her skills, while becoming recognized for her works. She even started an embroidery art gallery. But deep in her heart, Yingze still longed for recognition by her mother. In 2000, Yingze produced a Su-style piece that featured her mother as a testimony to her skills developed as a result of her mother's expectations.
做那个作品的时候，反复的猜了又绣，绣了又猜，试过了很多种的那个技法，但是都不合适。他后来就是想到小时候妈妈给我做的那双千层纳底鞋，底鞋上的那个细细密密的那个针脚。
This is what inspired Yingze, a flexible pattern that combines dotted or short stitches. Among these stitches are traces lined with alternatives, overlaps, butts, and crossings. The traces are arranged to various degrees of intensity on a flat surface. Yingze calls this technique the dripping stitch.
滴滴绣当时我想到的是就是滴水之恩以涌泉相报，那还有一个想到母亲的伟大，妈妈对孩子的爱真的是无私的，所以我想以这个方式来回报我的妈妈。
The dripping stitch became the first patented invention in China's embroidery scene and remains unprecedented to this day. This embroidered piece amazed Mrs. Zhou when it was presented to her. It was totally different from any traditional creation she'd ever seen. Its unique modality and texture delivered a strong, sketchy expression. For Mrs. Zhou, such a style was way too radical, too non-conforming. Su embroidery dates back at least 2,000 years. It has always been changing and evolving, from the earliest single-line profiles to today's fine decorative patterns, from delicate embroidery to random embroidery, from one-sided images. On its ancient path, Su embroidery seeks new and better outlets of expression. Yingze never abandoned her ideas of creativity. Mrs. Zhou, now 67, is beginning to have trouble using her eyes, and her hands as well. Eyes and hands are of great importance in embroidery. She feels this might be one of the few works she can do entirely on her own before her last. Eyes are the most difficult parts of the body to paint and embroider. Mrs. Zhou has decided to use overlap stitches to depict the kitten's eyes. This means she will employ different lengths of stitches and hues of color and overlap them layer by layer. The overlap stitch works best for a smooth transition of colors. Only in this way can the kitten's eyes be made bright and shiny. Yingze has never stopped exploring modern techniques to show the charm of Su embroidery. This piece for the festival, in particular, is created with a fine combination of her dripping stitch and random stitches. Its motif is based on a photograph the young embroiderer took when she saw a vine full of life clinging wall and sensed the spirit of interdependence. This was the birth of home. The 8 judges for the China Embroidery Art Festival are top experts in Chinese embroidery. They're not only critics, but Su embroidery virtuosos as well. Any submission from any part of China will not be selected for the event if any of the judges votes it down. Mrs. Zhou and her daughter have both attracted much attention. The mother's work, The Kitten and Mantis, exudes a strong traditional taste.
到现在为止，这个螳螂猫是最好的，小猫好像是要破起来的样子的。
Tight and neat stitches perfectly portray the soft texture of the kitten's fur, while showing the luster of threads at its best. The kitten's eyes look pearly and shiny, as if they are real. Yingze's home has different features.
这个作品是很有创意的，它无论从里面的内容，还是外面的那个装裱，它都是比较新颖。
像这幅作品嘛，它就是采用有实物的那种叶子的那个色彩来绣的，它的那个背景上那些呢，全是用水墨的那种把它做出来的，所以看上去那幅作品呢比较高雅的，它很有一种艺术的味道在里面。
Yingze and her mother end up in a drawer. They both have their works selected for the festival. This must be the most satisfactory result they could have hoped for. Su embroidery, a genre of ancient handiwork now in China's intangible cultural heritage catalogue, has been kept alive and thriving by generations of Shu Nian. Perhaps the controversy won't go away, nor will the mother-daughter bonds give way. But one thing is certain: Su embroidery will go on. In the future, new stitches will emerge to support more unique themes, with a dancing needle that touches on the essence of China.